of the most frequent comments people make when they look at my landscape photos is, "Oh wow, weren't you lucky with the weather?" Well, the polite answer is, yeah, it was great, it was fantastic. But the truthful answer is actually, I'd been watching the weather forecast like a hawk for a couple of weeks. I had other photographs to do in this area, and it was absolutely essential that the weather was good for those photographs as well. So I'd watched the forecast, I'd worked out exactly where the sun was coming up, and when I went out to take the photographs, I went out because I really thought there was a pretty good chance that the weather was going to be good, and you know, that I would get the shots that I wanted. Having said that, I was lucky in one respect, because the one thing that I hadn't bargained for in this particular shot was the mist. And without the mist, you wouldn't have had the shot. I got up at 4:30 in the morning, and the sun was beginning to come up, and I went out, and the thing that you notice first is that the light is absolutely amazing. And because I was in an area I didn't know terribly well, I was just drinking in the light, and I hadn't yet got a composition as such. I hadn't researched the composition beforehand. So I went out with, if you like, the most perfect sauce, a delicious sauce, but I hadn't got the meat to pour it onto. So really, the job in hand was to try and find great composition and take advantage of the beautiful light. So what happened here was basically the most important elements in the shot, apart from obviously the sheep, was the idea of the silhouette here coming slowly down to the left-hand corner, and the mist in the background. And because there was mist, you get a tremendous sense of depth. And one of the best things about it was the fact that the ground sloped away immediately after the horizon here. So because there was mist behind it, you could see every single blade of grass. And so the photograph became really a study in detail and texture. You can see the individual stones on the edge of the wall, and there's a bit of translucence coming through the leaves and the branches, and you can also see every individual stem of grass silhouetted against the pale, washed out, misty field in the background. Without the mist, the effect wouldn't have been half as good. So I spent quite a long time looking at it, and there were sheep around, and of course I was just waiting to see whether I would be lucky and get the sheep in the right position. And I have a sort of ridiculous idea that, you know, if I'm waiting for something and I've put a lot of effort into it, the universe will step in and I'll be rewarded. And you know, I do this all the time, and actually it generally works. So it wasn't too long until the sheep appeared. A couple of them started walking across the top here. On the technical side, rather than getting close into the subject and using a wider angle lens, I actually used a kind of medium telephoto lens in order to bring the hills in the background much closer and compress the perspective, which kind of adds drama to the sheep as well and the horizon. It looks as if kind of they're on the edge of a cliff, and actually the hills are brought much closer than they are in real life. Sometimes I'll go out and I'll know exactly what I'm going to do because I've researched it, I've been to the location and I've worked out all the details, and I'll just go back there and hope the weather's right for it, or at least go with the probability that it's going to. But on many occasions, like in this particular case, I'll go out without an idea of what I'm going to find, and I just have my antennae buzzing and I'm looking for the light, the composition, the shapes, the texture, the colour, and when those elements all come together, I'll recognise something strikes a chord inside me, and I'll stop and I'll think, right, okay, there's a possible picture here, and I'll kind of visualise what the picture is going to be. So then it's a relatively simple matter to set the camera up and play with it until I get what's already in my head basically looking as it does through the camera, and hopefully that's the way I get the image. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but that's the approach that I sometimes take, and that's what I did in this particular shot.